In the previous lecture we were discussing about the concept of streamline, streak line and path line, and towards the end of the lecture we made a comment that for steady flows they are identical, but for unsteady flows they are not identical. So, let us work out an example to illustrate that. So, let us work out a problem. So, these are the velocity components given. So, basically there is a point x0 y0 at which a dye is injected, colored dye is injected. So, what you have to find out? Equation of streamline at t equal to 0. Number 2, locus of a particle passing through x0 y0 at t equal to t0, and locus, and the third is colored line visualized at t equal to t0 as a consequence of continuous dye injection from t equal to 0. So, we will start with the streamline, which is the most straightforward part of this problem. So, I will work it out here. So, equation of the streamline at a given point is dx by u, a given instant of time is dx by u is equal to dy by v is equal to dz by w. Okay. So, you have u is dx by u is this, expression for u is there, is equal to dy by v. This is irrelevant here because it is a 2-dimensional velocity field, only 2 velocity components are there, third component is 0. So, now you have to figure out that at what time you are asked to find out the equation of streamline. So, at t equal to 0 this will become 0. So, you can write dx by x. So, you can now write integrate it. So, ln x is equal to y by v0 into t0 plus ln constant of integration, or just you can put a simple constant of integration, whatever is a convenient way of writing. So, we have essentially integrated this and a constant has appeared. So, how will this C depend, or what will the parameters on which this C will depend? The parameters on which this will depend is that you have to give a point through which the streamline passes. So, let us say that the streamline passes through x0 comma y0. So, if you constrain the streamline to pass through x0 y0, you will get the value of C from here, and that completes the solution of the first part. The second part, locus of a particle passing through x0 y0 at t equal to t0. So, how do you find out the locus of a particle passing through x0 y0 at t equal to t0? So, we can do it something like this. So, P for particle, we could have written x without P, but you know, because we are interested to find out locus of a particle which has passed through x0 y0 at t equal to t0. So, we can simply find out this locus by dx by x So, this will give you ln x and v that means how do you get C1 and C2? Sorry, here ln is not necessary. How do you get C1 and C2? You know that the question is asked that the particle passes through x0 y0. So, if you put xp equal to x0, you will get C1. If you put yp equal to y0, you will get C2. So, this you will get xp as a function of t and this will get yp as a function of t, and then you can eliminate t to find out the locus of the particle. The third part of this problem is the most interesting part. So, the second part is essentially the path line, and the third part as per the basic definition is the streak line. So, you can still write u equal to dx dt and v is equal to dy dt. So, for the path line, what you are fixing up? You are fixing up the initial position x0 comma y0. For the streak line, the initial position is fixed, but the injection time is variable. That means for the difference, so let us try to understand the difference between the path line and the streak line. In case of the path line, at a fixed time you injected a particle and you want to see the locus of that particle. In case of streak line, at the same point you injected the particle, but the particle is continuously being injected over a period of time and you want to see the locus at now, not as a function of time but at a given final time. So, for the path line the initial time is fixed but the final time is variable. For the streak line the initial time is variable, the injection time, but the final time is fixed. So, it is just the other way around. So, you have dx by x is equal to dt by so the initial time is here variable ti, but the initial position is fixed. The final time is t, which is fixed, tf, and final position is x. So, this is the part 3 we are solving. I am erasing the problem description part. So, you have ln x by x naught and from this part you have dy so you have V0 into Tf minus Ti is equal to y minus y0. So, here what is variable and what is fixed? So, this is what you have to understand, what is fixed and what is variable. So, what is variable is Ti and what is fixed is Tf, Tf is your current T. So, you can eliminate Ti. So, you can write an expression for Ti from here and substitute it here. So, eliminate Ti, and at what time you are asked to find out the equation of the streak line and put Tf is equal to the required time, which is say T0. The Ti is basically from 0 to the current time. Okay. So, we through this example we have tried to understand the basic difference between streamline, streak line and path line. So, with some kind of description of the flow field, next we will try to understand the various strains in the flow field, and that is where the real fun of doing kinematics is. So, for solids it is the strain that is important, for fluids it is the rate of strain or rate of deformation that is important. So, when you consider the strain in a fluid, you will have two types of strain, one is a linear strain, another is angular strain. So, we will try to first understand the linear strain rate. So, as an example, let us say that there is a fluid element like this. This fluid element has a dimension of delta x. Now we are interested to see how this dimension changes due to the linear change along x. So this is the x axis. So over a period of time delta t, this edge has moved by an amount u into delta t. U is the velocity component along x. If the velocity here is u, the velocity here is u plus del u del x into delta x plus higher order terms in the Taylor series, right. This is u at x, this is u at x plus delta x, because here x coordinate is x, here x coordinate is x plus delta x. So this into delta t. So the net change in delta x in length of delta x is the difference between these two. This is the difference between this and this. So what is that? Plus higher order terms. So change in length per unit length per unit time. It is the strain rate along x. So this is what? Change in length per unit time. So this is del u del x, right. You divide it by delta x, divide it by delta t, and if you take this delta x delta t in the limit tending to 0, all the higher order terms will vanish. So this is the linear strain rate along x. So this is often called as epsilon dot xx. Similarly, okay. So now that we have a fair idea of the linear strain rates, next let us calculate the volumetric strain rates. So because with the rate of change of length, and why this rate of change is so important for fluid, because fluid is continuously deforming, you allow it more and more time, it will deform more and more. So how fast or how slow it is changing either lengths or angles, whatever, this is important in the physical space. So with this understanding, let us see how, at what rate the fluid is changing its volume. So volume change will be a consequence of the length of change, the length change along x, y and z combined together. So let us write this, let us make a table. So old and new. Old dimension what was delta x, now what it will be, delta x plus the change. So what was the change? So, this is delta x into 1 plus del u del x into delta t. Let us just by analogy write the new delta y. U will be replaced by x and v will be replaced by y. And new delta z okay. So, what is new volume? If you have a rectangular parallelepiped shape with dimensions delta x, delta y, delta z, the old volume was simply delta x into delta y into delta z. But what is the new volume? New volume is the product of these three. So, delta x, delta y, delta z. I am not writing the higher order terms because when you take the limit and all these, those terms will not be important. You can yourself do this and check. So, this is the new volume. So, what is this? This is delta x, delta y, delta z. So, now you multiply these two. So, 1 plus del u del x delta t plus del v del y delta t plus the fourth term will be delta t into delta t square order, that is a higher order term because delta t square is supposed to be much smaller than delta t. So, we neglect that and we multiply that with 1 plus del w del z into delta t remaining term. So, the new volume so, you multiply the first term with 1 then the second term you just multiply with the first one because the remaining when the second term gets multiplied it becomes delta t square. So, only keep this term plus all will be higher order terms. So, now the change in volume per unit time, that is the volumetric strain rate. change in volume per unit volume per unit time. This is volumetric strain rate. So, what is this? This volume minus the old volume, then this term will be gone. So, that will be delta x into del u del x delta t plus del v del y delta t plus del w del z delta t then sorry delta x into delta y into delta z plus higher order terms per unit volume per unit time, and you of course take the limits, appropriate limits. I am not writing all the limits, delta x, delta y, delta z, delta t all tending to 0. So, what it will boil down to is simply del u del x plus del v del y plus del w del z, or in very short notation divergence of the velocity vector. Now, there is a special physical situation when you have a volume element which is not changing in volume, and such a situation is called as incompressible flow. So, incompressible flow is a kinematic definition where there is no volumetric strain. Again I am repeating, incompressible flow is a kinematic definition where there is no volumetric strain. So, incompressible flow means divergence of the velocity must be 0. So, this is the condition or constraint of incompressibility of flow. For a fluid, as a substance, sometimes we use a terminology called as incompressible fluid or compressible fluid. So, then what we essentially mean that what is the strength of dependence of density on pressure. If the density is strongly sensitive with change in pressure, then of course we say that the compressibility effect is there in the fluid. So, that is another way of looking into a fluid as a representation of or a property as a representation of the characteristic of the fluid, and here the incompressible flow is more of a kinematic definition. So, the viewpoint of looking into the situation as a compressible fluid or incompressible fluid is one paradigm, or compressible and incompressible flow is another paradigm, and incompressible flow essentially follows from this kinematic constraint. So, interestingly, this consideration of incompressible flow or compressible flow has something to do with how you represent the situation through a basic conservation law, which is the conservation of mass. So, we will see in the next module that how we relate this with the situation of describing the conservation of mass through the famous continuity equation. That we will take up in the next lecture. Thank you very much.